Friends, in a recent episode of Coup Save America, we lamented over our country's political duopoly, our enforced two-party system, and the stigma attached to the act of coloring outside the lines and daring to cast a vote for a third party or even an independent candidate. We talked about Cornel West's campaign as he ran for the president on the Green Party ticket, who has recently decided to go independent for some strange reason. But back to the Green Party. What exactly is this Green Party that I keep talking about? What ideals do they represent, and what are the party's goals? These are not easy to fully articulate in a monologue, so I'm just going to reference the front page of the Green Party's official website, which I think sums up their platform rather nicely. Their statement, quote, "We are grassroots activists, environmentalists, advocates for social justice, nonviolent resistors, and regular citizens who have had enough of corporate-dominated politics. Government must be part of the solution, but when it's controlled by the 1%, it's part of the problem. The longer we wait for change, the harder it gets," end quote. It seems to me that this is the very message that I have repeated incessantly on this podcast. It is the root of change that we are so absolutely in need of. In a world that is drowning in a cacophony of meaningless political discourse, it's a rare symphony that reverberates the ideals of true social justice and environmental sustainability. The Green Party emerges from the soil of grassroots activism, not merely as a political entity, but as a movement, a philosophy, and frankly, a powerful call to action. In the intricate dance of political ideologies, the Green Party stands out against the dominant players, those being the Democratic and Republican parties, whose steps, though different, still seem to often echo the same underlying rhythm of the establishment's interest. Now, my disillusionment with the Democratic Party has grown from seeds of hope into a forest of frustration. Once a bastion of progressive ideals, it now appears compromised by corporate interest and a radical shift towards the right, offering incremental change rather than the systemic reforms that our ailing world desperately needs. The Green Party, however, offers a radically different vision, painted with bold strokes of systemic reforms and unyielding principles. It refuses to dance to the tunes of corporations or bow to the pressures of fleeting political trends. This notion that radical change is unrealistic, propagated by those seated comfortably in the halls of power, is fervently challenged by the Green Party. It advocates for transformative policies addressing the root causes of inequality, climate change, and social injustice, recognizing the pressing need for immediate action. The Green Party represents a radical departure from the politics of convenience and a break from the well-trodden path of incrementalism. It does not seek to merely treat the symptoms of a diseased system. Rather, it aims to cure the ailment, to rebuild the foundations, to write the story in a new way. In the Green Party, I see the embodiment of the change that we so desperately need, a movement that understands the urgency of climate change, a movement that champions the rights of the marginalized, and a movement that fights for economic justice and equality. Now, as I watch the Democratic Party play their game of compromise and concession, my belief in the Green Party's vision only grows stronger. It is a vision that transcends political boundaries, challenges the established order, and dares to dream of a world where justice, equality, and sustainability are not just ideals, but realities. It is a vision I am proud to stand behind, a vision I firmly believe in, and I believe offers a more viable pathway to the change that we seek and need. I get it. Some are hesitant, so let's delve into the very essence of the Green Party's policies, which encompass a holistic approach to environmental, social, and economic issues. At its core, excuse me, At its core, as the name implies, the Green Party champions the principles of ecological wisdom, calling for a symbiotic relationship between humanity and the natural world. It fervently advocates for aggressive climate action, the transition to 100% renewable energy, conservation of biodiversity, and, most importantly, an end to the practices that exploit and degrade our planet. Again, a stark contrast to the Democratic Party's often diluted environmental propositions and their concessions to the fossil fuel industry. The Green Party strives to relentlessly cultivate a world where harmony between humanity and nature forms the bedrock of our existence, a partnership that grows increasingly important as our planet so rapidly degrades. Sadly, the most recent statistics paint a grim picture of our environmental reality. The IPCC, which is the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, warns that we are on a fast track towards catastrophic climate conditions, with global temperatures expected to rise 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels by as early as 2030. The Green Party stands as the antidote to this impending calamity, championing biodiversity against the relentless march of urbanization and advocating for renewable energy against the depletion of finite fossil fuels. The Green Party advocates for conservation and responsible consumption. It calls for a recognition with the earth, a reconnection, recognizing that the intrinsic value of all life forms and the interdependence of our ecosystems. And it's not just our planet herself that we must strive to save, but the people who rely on Mother Earth to sustain us. As is ever expected in today's just brutal political climate, not all citizens are equally affected by the destruction of our planet and her resources. Numerous studies have highlighted the disproportionate impact of environmental degradation on marginalized communities. Indigenous peoples, whose ancient wisdom and harmonious way of life are invaluable treasures in our quest for ecological balance, find a stellar ally in the Green Party. And the party also stands shoulder to shoulder with communities of color, who have for far too long been the disproportionate victims of environmental hazards and the increasing cost of resources. On the economic front, the Green Party seeks a fundamental reshaping of our economic structure, emphasizing social equity and sustainability over unbridled capitalism. It proposes an actual Green New Deal that aims to create millions of jobs through investments in renewable energy, public transportation, and organic agriculture, all while addressing the socioeconomic disparities that have so long plagued our society. The widening chasm between the haves and the have-nots is not merely a result of individual circumstances, but a manifestation of policies that, again, prioritize wealth accumulation over equitable opportunity. We have tax structures that favor the wealthy, access barriers to quality education and healthcare, and labor policies that, quite frankly, undermine worker rights. All of these issues contribute to perpetuating inequality. The Green Party's bold acknowledgement that the systemic causation of inequality is deeply entrenched in our country's socioeconomic structure contrasts sharply with the Democratic Party, where its ties to Wall Street and corporate donors often dilute the vigor of economic reforms and, of course, maintains the status quo, which is economic inequality for all. Social justice is yet another pillar that firmly grounds the Green Party's ethos. The party stands as a vocal advocate for universal health care, quality education for all, criminal justice reform, LGBTQ rights, and racial and gender equality. It champions the rights of the marginalized, the overlooked, and the underserved, fighting tirelessly to rectify systemic injustices. The Democratic Party, while espousing similar ideals, has often been criticized for its reluctance to challenge powerful interest groups and its preference for piecemeal reforms over systemic change. And these criticisms are quite valid. In its fight for equality and social reform, the Green Party strongly advocates for the ideal of Medicare for all. a policy that is aimed at ensuring universal healthcare access for all of its citizens. For me, this reform has been a crucible, a litmus test for a party's willingness to embrace progressive ideals. Now, while the idea of single-payer universal healthcare garners wide support among the populace, with a 2019 Kaiser Family Foundation poll indicating that 56% of the public favored a system such as Medicare for All, it has encountered opposition and dilution within our current two-party system. The contention pivots around feasibility, cost, and the perceived threat to the existing healthcare infrastructure, revealing a reluctance to disrupt the equilibrium and challenge entrenched interests. The Green Party recognizes the economic value of converting to a universal healthcare system, in addition to making quality medical care accessible to all citizens. What a radical idea. In international relations, another difference between the Green Party and the Democratic Party is that the Green Party calls for peace, diplomacy, and human rights. It opposes military interventions, advocates for nuclear disarmament, and supports international cooperation to address global challenges. This non-interventionist stance and focus on diplomacy, as I've said, differentiate it from the Democratic Party, which often supports military interventions and has been criticized for perpetuating a cycle of global conflict. The Green Party's commitment to decentralization, local autonomy, and community-based economics further distinguish it from the more centralized approaches of the Democratic Party. It values the wisdom and resilience of local communities and believes in their ability to craft solutions that are tailored to their unique needs and circumstances. Revitalizing democracy is also integral to the Green Party's vision. It emphasizes participatory democracy, this radical thing called citizen empowerment, and electoral reforms to ensure that the government truly represents the will of the people instead of the will of the corporations. It fights against the influence of money in politics and works towards a society where information is transparent and the civic space is vibrant and inclusive. Grassroots democracy forms the beating heart of the Green Party. It fervently believes in empowering communities and individuals, encouraging active participation in the democratic process, and fostering transparent, and the key word here perhaps is accountable governance. The party opposes corporate influence in politics and seeks to rather amplify the voices that are often silenced in the political discourse. In contrast, the Democratic Party has been marred by its association with super PACs, corporate funding, and the influence of lobbyists, raising questions about its commitment to true democratic ideals. Overall, the Green Party's platform is a testament to a vision that sees beyond the immediate, that strives for a world where symbiosis between humanity and nature is not a distant utopia, but an achievable, practical reality. The Green Party is unequivocal in its commitment to combating climate change through comprehensive strategies like the Eco Action and the Green New Deal. The Green Party is unapologetically bold in its pursuit of economic justice with proposals such as a living wage, Medicare for all, and even universal basic income. In essence, the Green Party embodies the principles that we expect yet only wildly hope for within the Democratic Party. And these are ideals that I don't see the Democratic Party fighting for anytime soon. The Democratic Party, you see, is positioned at the crossroads of tradition and transformation, grappling with the dichotomy of its identity. It is torn between a constituency that is yearning for change and the formidable barriers of political pragmatism, corporate influence, and internal discord. The tension between the progressives and the centrists unveils a party in flux, a party navigating the currents of aspiration and apprehension. The question that looms is whether the Democratic Party can reconcile this internal divergence, whether it can forge a cohesive vision that actually embraces progressive ideals while navigating the complexities of governance. The trajectory of this reconciliation will undoubtedly shape the party's future, influence the contours of our democracy, and determine the extent to which progressive solutions can permeate the fabric of our societal narrative. We can wait and see where this takes the Democratic Party. But standing on the other side of the political spectrum, the Green Party already presents a tableau of progressive ideals, unencumbered by the need for the eternal reformations that beleaguer the Democratic Party. The Green Party, in essence, is a manifestation of forward-thinking policies, environmental stewardship, social justice, and grassroots democracy, all woven into its foundational fabric. The Green Party already operates on a paradigm that prioritizes the needs of the many over the interests of the few. The party's commitment to campaign finance reform and reducing the influence of corporations in politics showcases its stance against the very issues that seem to hamstring the larger parties from within. The Green Party is already where we want the Democratic Party to be. It is, throughout its existence, a constant reminder that there is already a political entity that embodies the aspirations of those seeking a more equitable, sustainable, and just society. You see, it doesn't necessitate a struggle for reformation within its ranks, as its very foundation is built upon the very principles that progressive voices within the Democratic Party have been fighting to bring to the fore. With the Green Party standing tall as the most genuine and authentic progressive choice, I guess we have to ask what holds this party back from becoming the new choice of the people. Well, unfortunately, though endowed with a vision of ecological wisdom and social justice, the Green Party encounters formidable challenges on its path to electoral success. It faces, of course, opposition from entrenched interest and skepticism from a public that is often disillusioned by politics. The biggest challenge, however, for the Green Party remains its ability to translate its progressive platform into tangible political influence and electoral success. Today's political landscape, marred by the towering shadows of the Democratic and Republican parties, presents a seemingly impenetrable fortress where the battle for ballot access is as arduous as the struggle for equitable representation, at least within the two-party system that is deeply entrenched in American politics. The Green Party obviously faces an uphill battle in gaining representation and bringing its visionary politics into legislation. A foundational issue is the implementation of restricted ballot access laws, which vary significantly from state to state. And let's just guess who is at the forefront of these ballot access restrictions. It's not just the Democratic Party, it's the Republican Party as well. So both of these parties have a role in obstructing third parties from accessing the ballot. One example is the Green Party, and this is again true for many third parties, often faces demanding petition requirements, short filing deadlines, and the lingering threat of litigation. Obstacles strategically crafted to preserve the duopoly of the two dominant parties. I'll give you an example. A study by Ballot Access News revealed that in 2020, third-party candidates needed to gather around 700,000 signatures to secure ballot access in all states. This is a figure significantly higher compared to the requirements imposed on the two major parties. The struggle for visibility is exacerbated by the limited media coverage and exclusion from high-profile debates. And we're going to be talking to our guest about offering an example of how this limited media coverage and exclusion plays out in the real world. The Commission on Presidential Debates, ostensibly a nonpartisan equity, imposes stringent ballot polling thresholds, effectively sidelining third-party voices and keeping them out of the debates, and again, hidden from public. Studies indicate that the exposure that's afforded by these debates significantly influences public opinion and voter choices, thereby again reinforcing the hegemony of the Democratic and Republican parties. Financial disparities further accentuate the imbalance in the political arena. Data from the Center for Responsive Politics highlights the stark contrast of campaign contributions, with the major parties constantly outpacing their third-party counterparts. The influx of corporate donations and super PAC funding into the Democratic and Republican coffers underscores the entrenched interests that shape policy agendas and electoral outcomes. Furthermore, the first-past-the-post electoral system inherently disadvantages third parties by fostering a winner-takes-all environment. Research by political scientists such as Doviger has long postulated that such a system inevitably leads to a two-party structure, where voters, fearing the wasted vote syndrome, gravitate towards the perceived lesser of two evils, rather than aligning with their true preferences. Our nation that prides itself as a beacon of democracy is thus marred by the paradox of limited choice. A system where the resonant voices of the parties, like the Green Party, are stifled by the cacophony of corporate interest and partisan politics. The Democratic and Republican parties, fortified by structural advantages and financial muscle, perpetuate a narrative that obscures the root cause of our societal ills and marginalizes the advocates of systemic and purposeful change. The path to dismantling the barriers erected by the two-party system necessitates a collective awakening, an acknowledgement of the diverse tapestry of voices that constitute the American polity, and a commitment to fostering a truly representative democracy. The Green Party's struggle is emblematic of a broader quest for political pluralism, where the ideals of social justice, ecological balance, and participatory governance are not mere aspirations but integral components of our democratic fabric. Yet, in the face of these challenges, the Green Party remains steadfast in its commitment to a more equitable and sustainable future. The journey is undeniably steeped in obstacles, but the resolve to amplify the voices of the marginalized, protect the sanctity of our environment, and champion the principles of grassroots democracy fuels the Green Party's continued pursuit of electoral representation. Its presence, its ideals, and its commitment to systemic change continue to offer a beacon of hope for those disillusioned by the compromises and slow pace of reform within the traditional political structures. But in the shadowed quarters of our democracy, where political giants cast long, influential shadows, emerges a question that is both daring and contemplative. Can the Green Party overthrow the established oligarchy manifested by the Republican and Democratic behemoths? A ponderance wrapped in layers of pragmatism and idealism, the answer, at least for the foreseeable future, leans towards the negative. The Republicans and Democrats, with their deeply entrenched roots and overarching reach and branches, have long monopolized the political landscape, presenting the electorate with a binary choice, a constant dance between the lesser of two evils. However, to see this as an immutable reality is to overlook the power of incremental change, the potential that lies in support for alternative voices like the Green Party and other third parties. It is not a quixotic dream to imagine a landscape where these voices resonate with equal vigor, where the symphony of democracy is not just a duet, but a harmonious ensemble of diverse perspectives and ideas. The path to change, while arduous and fraught with challenges, begins with a single step, a step towards embracing and endorsing the principles and visions that third parties bring to the political tableau. It's a journey for asserting our democratic right to hold the existing power structures accountable, to challenge the hegemony of the two-party system, and to reject the notion that our choices are confined to the boundaries drawn by the political elite. Each vote cast in support of the Green Party is not just a mark on a ballot, it's a declaration of dissent against the status quo, a signal to those in the hollowed halls of power that the public yearns for more than just a binary choice. It's an embodiment of the belief that our democracy can and should be a reflection of the myriad voices and ideals that form the tapestry of our society. In a political system where the dichotomy of power has been meticulously maintained, supporting third parties is a form of democratic rebellion. It's a way of dismantling the illusion of choice presented by the Republicans and Democrats and constructing a narrative that is diverse and inclusive and representative of the aspirations of the people. While the monumental task of overthrowing the existing oligarchy seems a distant dream, the seeds of change are sown in the soil of resistance, watered by the aspirations of the electorate, and nurtured by the conviction that our democracy deserves more than a perpetual dance between two partners. The journey may be long, the challenge is formidable, but the destination, a political landscape enriched by the voices of the many, that's certainly a vision worth striving for. Supporting the Green Party and other third parties is not an abandonment of pragmatism. It's a realization that pragmatism and idealism can coexist. It's an acknowledgement that the path to systemic change is paved with the bricks of diverse representation and a mortar of public will. It is a call to action for each one of us to use our votes, our voices, and our advocacy to shape the contours of our democracy and redefine the narrative of political possibility. By embracing the principles of equity, sustainability, peace, and democracy, we can collectively rewrite the narrative of our society and usher in a new era of purposeful change for the betterment of all humanity. If we join hands and stand together, a green, just, and sustainable world is not just a utopian dream, but a tangible, achievable reality. And that, my friends, is the final word up front. I am Sean Sainhart, and this is Coup Save America. The Green Party is, as I've said, a beacon of participatory democracy, encouraging individuals to dive into the political arena. So on that note, we have with us today a very courageous young woman who has made herself a voice for transformative policies and unwavering values. Christina Khalil joins us right after the break. And welcome back. Christina Khalil is running for the U.S. Senate in New Jersey. And who is she replacing? Let's find out. Christina.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. My mouth is a little dry, so.
It's okay. It's okay. I guess I am going to be replacing Senator Menendez, Bob Menendez Sr. in his U.S. Senate seat. There's been a lot of corruption going on with him, and this is
just a bit, just a little bit of corruption.
A bit of corruption. I don't know if you heard the other day. It came out in 2018. His wife. Yes. His wife hit an innocent pedestrian and killed him and the police. And
let her go.
Yep. And the police came for a favor, and all the Democrats covered it up and supported him. And this poor man's family did not get any answers, and they all just swept it under the rug, which makes you think, how many other things have they swept under the rug?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. I mean, the fact that, as of last count, at least, I don't believe even Chuck Schumer has called for Menendez to step down.
Yep. The way it's looking right now, Menendez I hate to say it, but it is set up in this way, especially in New Jersey. Menendez most likely will be winning the primaries in New Jersey because you have, when it comes to the entire Democratic line, you only have corrupted people versus corrupted people, and people are going to be like, I might as well stick with the same corrupted person instead of pick a new corrupted person, because at least I know what I get with this person instead of what I don't know what I'm going to get with this person.
Well, and that why, which beggars the question, why do voters not just wake up and say, okay, we're done with this. We're going with a third party. We're going with the Green Party. What do you think is holding them back from doing this?
Stockholm Syndrome. It's fear of change. It's fear of different. It's fear of, wow, what would life look like if I put all this trust in there, because the reality is you will have lower taxes. You will have a whole bunch of support. You'll be able to afford the place you live, get clean water, get food.
Yep.
But a lot of people, because of the years of abuse that the current elected officials have caused, a lot of people don't believe that that's a reality. And they're so scared of breaking away, because with abusers, when you try and break away, you think everything's going to get worse, versus when you do break away and then you're just like, oh my God, life is so much better.
No, absolutely. I love the way you put that, Stockholm Syndrome. And I'm sure some of our listeners are gonna ask the question, well, why would Christina run in the Green Party as opposed to the Democratic Party? And let's just fix that myth right there. First off, you tried to run as a Democrat, correct?
Yeah, correct. They pushed me out. They have told me when I came with the progressive policies, and I'm just like, this is how we get the change. We're going to lower taxes immediately. We're going to see less crimes. We're going to see more families stick together. We're going to see less death. This is what we're going to do. They're just like, oh my God, this is great. But Menendez is our friend, so we're going to support him. And they're mixing friendship with business, and you can't do that, especially as a political leader. You have to be able to separate the two, and you can't turn your back on the voters that voted these. You got voted into power. You have to use your platform to uplift people, not harm people. So they, after that, the constant, and then also when I did meet with Democratic elected people, not one of them that I met a lot of them, not one of them supports Menendez. Not one of them likes Menendez, but they've all said it'd be career suicide, and the revenge that would happen to them would be astronomical, and they would lose their seats. So they would only support me if I got popular, if the campaign, if I could get a lot more supporters. But if you guys aren't supporting me, how am I supposed to grow? If you love everything you're standing for, but you can't stand on the principles of these policy changes, how am I supposed to grow? So the Green Party was interested, and I connected with them. And we sat down and we talked and we reviewed my policy plans. They were like, this is what we stand for. I'm just like, oh, great. And they're like, we could definitely use you as a representative for United States Senate. I spoke with Madeline Hoffman, who's ran against Menendez the last few elections, and she has given me her blessing. So I am the endorsed U.S. Senate candidate. There is nobody in the Green Party that is going against me. Everyone has been nothing but supportive and uplifting, and they want to see families get healed. They want to see me start the generation of healing instead of continuing this abusive generation of trauma cycle that our current establishment is putting into the community.
So, I'm taking, from what you're saying, I'm taking away that you're not corrupt enough to be a Democrat.
Yes.
And I'm guessing that your biggest sponsors are not Walmart, no. Pfizer, Exxon, Shell Oil. I'm guessing.
No. So what's beautiful about the Green Party? I know. Sorry. What's beautiful about the Green Party is we have to sign a contract. And the contract says we will not accept corporate donations. And we have to actually audit our own, like our stuff gets audited, and we have to answer if we get a large amount of donations. We have to answer where this large amount of money came from. If it came from a corporate donor, we're going to get kicked out. So I could be elected, and if I break that rule, then the entire party will turn on me and say, you've been corrupted, especially because if I'm acting in a certain way and if I'm not working in the people's favors, they're going to say, you've been corrupted. We can't have you representing us. This is not, you signed the contract and this is what we agreed upon. So you have to step down. And if I don't step down, they're going to have someone replace me.
So this is the exact accountability that we wanted to see with the Democratic Socialists.
Yes. And even some of the people that have actually called Menendez to resign, they've actually started retracting their statements and said, I never actually wrote that resignation letter. That never came from me. So we don't have that accountability. And essentially in the long run, because Menendez isn't the only person with skeletons in the closet, you have to think about it. He's got 30 years on these people. So if he goes down, he's not the only one going down. So now they got to save face and try and keep him in office. So when most likely he wins the primaries in June of next year, me and him will be on the ballot together in New Jersey. And it was nice that going to the Green Party, I'm not on the primaries because nobody's going against me. And then I'm going right to the ballot in New Jersey in November.
It really just angers the hell out of me. This whole, and you get this narrative, well, Democrats are better than Republicans. Okay, give me a break. I'm sorry. Maybe on issues and in rhetoric, I suppose that's true. But I mean, this is just another example. They're supporting corruption. How is this different from what we are, like Clarence Thomas? We want him investigated. We want Jared Kushner investigated. But yet, when it comes to people like Hunter Biden or Menendez, we just, no, endorsement. We got to vote for this person. And then they play this lesser of two evils crap on us.
Yep, and they're really one and the same. There is no lesser to evil because we have Biden who overturned our ICE law.
Yeah.
Would not be opening any more private prisons for ICE in New Jersey. He overturned it, and every elected official stood by that overturn. And I'm just like, are you kidding me?
Well, didn't New Jersey also pass a law that said exactly that? And Biden is currently in federal court fighting to appeal.
It got overturned. We're building more private prisons. New Jersey is going toward a completely private prison industry now.
Jeez.
And it is the most terrifying thing because especially in New Jersey and in other countries, you are guilty, and in other states, not other countries, in other states in this country, you are guilty until you can prove your innocence. So when you get arrested, especially in marginalized communities, you go right to jail unless you have connections, unless you have money, unless you have a good lawyer. You are going right to jail, and a lot of people are lost within the system. And you see it every day with these articles, with this research coming out, and yet our elected officials are not listening or reading or seeing what professionals are saying. They're saying this doesn't work. You have people lost. You have people dying in the system. You have too many innocent people in prison, and and no one's doing anything to change that.
Well, we're adding profits to it.
Yes, and we need to remove the profits. That's the only way we're going to uplift the communities. That's the only way we're going to move forward as a country, because it shouldn't be the top 1% in control of everything. And it's not just, and the profits, they're all utilizing the 13th Amendment. They support it so much. They live off of it because they can make whatever they want within these prisons. And I remember reading a list, and something on the list was bulletproof vests for officers, and other things for police officers. So in these prisons, they would be paying these people 5 cents an hour to make these bulletproof vests and a whole bunch of things for officers. And in return, these companies sell it at 200-300% markup. So right to the officers, and then these officers bring these weapons and these uniforms and stuff right into the communities that they're harming. And it's a vicious circle. At what point do we end it?
Well, exactly. And part of one of the ways that we do this is through the war on drugs, which is another principle of your campaign.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, the failed war on drugs, the goal is to end it. And that's what I'm fighting for. And it was really clear when Biden dropped the cocaine charge, and it was black and white within the White House, and he made that whole thing vanish, that the war on drugs was not about criminals. It was about harming marginalized communities, harming minorities, imprisoning them, breaking up their families, because it was about ending drugs. The people that whoever brought that cocaine in the bathroom, they would have been held accountable to the highest court of law, especially bringing drugs into the White House. But it's two separate laws. For the poor people, we're held to a higher standard than the actual people representing the country that are held to a lower standard.
Well, on that point, in fact, it was Joe Biden that launched, in large part, the war on the minorities with his crime bill. And the interesting thing is, you got people in prison because of that crime bill for doing far less in terms of drugs, certainly, than Hunter Biden. And yet for Hunter Biden, he gets rehabilitation, as he should. Yeah. I'm not against that. But by Joe Biden's own law, Hunter Biden, rather, should be in prison.
Yep, 100%. And then you hear people, especially on the Democrat, oh, well, he's a father that loves his son. He's just doing the best he can. I'm like, well, every family that I've worked with, every parent says, I love my child. So why can't we help them love their child and be good parents and put them in rehab? Why is their love a lot less when they're in the court of law versus, our current administration, and everybody's covering it up, and everyone's just like, no, he's just a good father. Oh, so everyone that I work with in a community is a bad father? No, they want what's best for their kid. They want their kid to get help. And when it comes to the war on drugs, the failed war on drugs, let me emphasize that. I've been in my field I've worked in multiple different levels of care. And as of, I want to say 4-5 years ago, the insurance changed. And when the insurance changed, it became more about profit. And even nonprofits in New Jersey became fee-for-profit. So what nonprofits used to do is they would give the services, and then whatever we would get paid in nonprofits, that's how it used to work. Then we would get the money, and we could get grants much easier. We could get funding. We just keep helping people. That was the goal. The money was never an issue. Now they actually changed it. You have to get money first before you can help a person. So you have to get insurance approval. You have to get the grant approved. You have to get state funding. You have to get all these funding. So even nonprofits are fee for service, which is wild because it used to never be that way. So it's gotten so bad that I have families that are spending, and we're talking about the working class.
Yeah.
I don't know how they spend some of them spend between 20 and 30,000 a year on insurance with premiums. And this is like a family of 4, family of 5, because your kids are so much more money, and then you got the co-payments. And I've met one person
and the cost of prescriptions too added to that.
Yep. And I met one person that spends about $40,000 a year on insurance and on their entire family. I'm just like, this is wild. And they're struggling, but they don't have a choice. And so the one family that I've worked with recently, we were trying to find a rehab. They're paying like in the double digits, thousands of dollars a year on this insurance. Their Horizon said, oh, we don't cover this type of treatment. Well, this person has to go away for a long time because of they need both mental health help and substance abuse help. What are you telling me that you don't cover? Why the hell are they paying so much? And they're like, we'll see if we could do a single case agreement. I'm like, there should be no single case agreement, because if you're paying so much money, then you should be able to have this stuff covered. Like, it's just, it just boggles my mind. I'm like, how are you guys dictating who's worth living and who's not? And it just keeps getting worse. And then with the insurance, so then we finally found the place. It was actually cheaper to not do it through insurance. And this family was at the point where they were thinking of putting a lien on their house to get person treatment. And I'm just like, I was like, don't do it right now. I'm researching scholarships. We're going to get through this. And the mom was doing stuff on her end. We finally found a place. They were just like, okay, for $600 a month, this is what we're going to do. And they were able to work with us. But I'm like, it shouldn't have to be like that.
Right.
And then people are just like, oh, why is addiction so out of control? Why is this so out of control? Because you're making access to treatment and no one's able to actually get treatment. You're putting such a barrier for resources and for treatment that nobody can. And then I've ran into issues where beds are full, where there's a wait list. And so a lot of places there's a 2-week wait list. What the hell am I supposed to do with a person for 2 weeks and they're homeless and using heroin right now on the streets?
Well, and let's talk too about why people are doing drugs in the first place. And a lot of that is due to socioeconomic inequality.
Yes. And it's a loss of hope. And and one thing, and this is what none of the leaders do. They don't actually go to the source and speak with people. And within my years of speaking with people, the one thing is, if they had hope, when people get sober And relapse is high because they're trying to catch up with everything and trying to catch up with everyone else. So if we're able to help them get affordable housing, make sure that all basic needs are met, that they are able, if everyone's able to buy food, have clean water, have electricity, basic needs met easily on one full-time job, that's already going to drop overdoses and relapse down by more than 50%. And they just don't want to understand that because they want to feed into that 13th Amendment. They want people in the prison because it is such a money grab when it comes to substances, when it comes to recovery, when people are in prison, like drug court. They get paid so much money per person that goes on drug court. And I've ran into, and now it's called recovery court, and I've ran into people on recovery court that they'll say, you know what, I don't think I'm ready to get sober. I would rather go to jail. I think that would be better for me. And I'd rather do 2 years in jail than 5 years on drug court because that's just going to not help me at all. And I'll get more services in jail and more treatment because when a person's in jail or prison, there's different types of therapy versus drug court where they have a very high demand, and a lot of people in early recovery cannot handle those high demands. And I'm not knocking drug court because I've seen it save so many lives, but they just don't listen to the person individually. And that's what drives me crazy. And they're just like, no, we're going to put you here because this is what we think is best. I'm like, no, as a social worker and a therapist, the only person that can tell me what's best for them is the person in front of me, the person that's treating me. Now, will I intervene and say if they're going through a psychosis or if they're suicidal, if they're homicidal, and say, okay, you know, you're clearly not stable right now. This is what's best for you. Let's get you stabilized and revisit this conversation. Yeah, but that's a different story if this person's a danger to themselves or others. So, but when it comes to treatment plans, I sit there with the person. I'm just like, okay, what do you need? What can I do for you? How can we make this together, this working relationship together so successful for you? And they'll sit there and they'll tell me. And a lot of times they'll be like, no one's ever asked me that. And it's never one size fits all. It's like, well, you have to tell me what's going to work for you. And when we go down that route, it's much more successful. In recovery, because then they're getting their needs met, and then we get a better understanding because there's sometimes, you know, you need those co-occurring treatments where we're tackling both substances and mental health at the same time. Sometimes the person needs to start with just substances, and sometimes the person needs to go to detox, get detox, and then get their mental health stabilized first before we can start the substance treatment. So there's multiple different routes to go, and every individual person's different. So that's where, and taking that on a micro level into a macro level too, because listening to the voters is what's going to change this country. If they're saying, hey, you know, if majority is saying, hey, this is what we need, we want clean water. Okay, that's easy. We already have an act that no one's voting on that's going to give clean water to every resident in this country. And we have grants within the act that's going to be able to change the pipes in every household that's going to give them clean water in every single house. And we're going to remove PFAS, which is a very dangerous chemical, and all these other dangerous chemicals in the water. We could do that. That's not a problem. But they don't want to do that. The current administration doesn't want to do it. And they feed into and a good way I describe it and how I see it is these people are like the people in charge of the slaughterhouse, and we're all like the cattle. And when we get sick, they just discard us. They throw us to the side, and then we die, and then we're not valuable, and we're not the healthy people there. So, and then they focus on the healthy people because we're what's going to keep them more valuable.
Afloat.
Afloat more. And it's just so, and I want to change that because it takes everyone in America to run this country. It's not the top 1%, because without the working folk, and you see that with UAW and all these strikes happening, without us, you can't run. This country would fall if 25% of Americans went on strike tomorrow. This country would fall in 1 week. We would not be able to sustain 25% of strikes. And if 50% of people went on strike, we would fall within 3 days.
We would get our power back.
And we can also get our power back besides strikes is voting in the Green Party. People that actually care, people that are passionate, people that want to help, people that are hungry to help, people that will be on the front lines every single day. That's how we'll do that.
Now, let me ask you, do you think that Cornel West's decision to go independent, I mean, to me, that has to hurt the Green Party?
No, it doesn't in the long run. When I first joined the Green Party, the goal was to be bigger than Cornel.
Right.
Him. But it doesn't. I'm thankful for the highlights he has given for the Green Party, but his vision and our vision did not align. So I do wish him the best, and I don't hate him. I don't have any animosity, and I will support him in any way that I can. So it's just more, he had to do his own path, and that would have been better. Because to be the Green Party president, to be any presidential candidate, it's a lot of pressure.
Well, yes.
Yeah. And there's a lot of things too. And at that moment, it doesn't become about you anymore. In your vision, it becomes about others. And I already went into my campaign knowing, okay, I'm taking the highest office that I can in New Jersey right now. And at this point, I had to, and speaking with the Green Party, at first it was my vision, this is what I think, and this is what would be good. And the Green Party of New Jersey and meeting with National, I realized I had to take myself out of the equation. I was completely fine with that. And it's about the entire Green Party. How can I build them up in New Jersey? How can I get more people to run for office? How can I build up our voters? So it became a bigger vision than myself. And that was something I'm capable of taking on, and I'm okay with taking on. And I took that deep breath, and I'm just like, wow, okay, I thought it was going to be this, but this is actually going to be 50 times harder than what I thought it was going to be, because now I'm taking on this responsibility. So just thinking about it that way, it's like, okay, I have one state, he had 50. So it's more like I respect him, and like, again, there is no animosity towards Cornel, and I do wish him the best. And he's more than welcome. Like, if he's just like, oh, there's an event with the Green Party I'd like to attend.
Yeah.
I'm okay with him being at my events, so I can only speak for myself. And
that's kind of the point, though, I was making, is him announcing his presidency. I mean, well, first off, his whole candidacy seems a bit unserious. I mean, you keep changing parties, and
that's the other issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a serious candidacy, unfortunately. But that's my concern was, I saw, okay, with Cornel West running on the Green ticket, that's going to help a lot of down ballot Greens as well.
Yes.
And now, you know, we might be losing that effect.
Not necessarily. Because we're still working on finding a presidential candidate, and there are a ton of candidates that are still going, that are in the primaries, because Cornel never got the nomination. He was working toward the primary.
Toward the right.
Yeah. So, and that was coming up, but there are so many other candidates that are equally as great. So it's exciting to see and listening to their platforms, and I've even spoken to a few of them, and it's the energy and the positivity. Yes, there are some people that are hurt by it, but I think it's still good, because at this point, it's how we carry ourselves afterwards. It's how we move forward. It's not about sitting in the same spot and throwing a temper tantrum and saying, oh my God, because he never won the nomination to begin with. Would it be different if he won the nomination and then, like, he walked away from us? That would be a huge blow, because we put all this in there, all this energy in there. But it does, and Cornel has to work on gaining the trust back with the public, because this is his third switch. And that's a journey. I hope he's thought this through, and I don't want it to come off where I'm talking negative, but he has to regain that trust and say, like, I am serious, this is what I'm doing, and this is how I'm doing it. But now he has the freedom to do it in his way versus these are our principles that we're standing on. It's for the people. It's not about us.
But it shows a level of indecisiveness, and again, it's at this point, it's hard to take his campaign seriously. It's like, what are you doing? I mean, you're going to run for president, as you said, the highest office you can run for, and you don't give any, forward thinking to your approach. I mean,
and that's what he has to focus on. Like, I'm really focused on really building New Jersey and really winning the seat, because Menendez has been causing so much harm. So my energy can't even be on his switch, because right now what's even happening in Palestine and what is happening this week with Menendez, it's like my energy is here every single day. Like, I have a new client that I just picked up with my part-time job next week. Like, it's a very sensitive case, and it's someone I've worked with a year ago, and now the person's coming back to me because they're like, I need more help. So I have more important things, because I have immediate people that every day that I'm coming in contact with, that I'm just like, I have to put my focus to what I can control, not what other people are doing. And I'm not in direct contact with him. He's got to do what he's got to do. But every day, like, I carry Narcan with me every single day, because I'm so scared of running into someone overdosing. So it's like, I have to be in the moment. So, like, I wish him the best with everything. And he does have a long journey ahead of him, and he has to earn the trust back. And he knows what his third switch looks like. And everyone is talking about it on social media, and everyone's lost trust. So, but that's his bed he's made. I have to focus on these changes and these human beings that are surrounding me every single day.
Yeah, I was just disappointed when he announced it. He wasn't even, just because I saw so much energy on social media finally for the Green Party because of him. And I was just like, this is the last thing that we need. And then, of course, it's going to be ironic, because I'm predicting that RFK is going to announce that he's going to be running as an independent. So we're going to have another person.
They're going to be fighting each other. That's going to be entertaining to watch.
But does that not speak to a moment, though, for the Green Party as well?
Yes, it speaks to it. Like, there's a huge opportunity for Green Party to advance, because we're going to see, when it comes to the independent nomination, it's going to go one or two ways. Either Cornell and JFK are going to, like, team up, and their ideologies are two separate things.
Yes.
Very two separate things. Or they're going to fight so nasty against each other for that independent nomination. And so they're going to do what they're going to do. And then Green Party is going to uplift and be out. We go to every single event. We encourage the community. We educate the community, and we're just going to keep helping people. That's what we do as a party.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just disappointed, too, that the Green Party, I mean, I talk to so many people, and I get in fights with people on Facebook all the time about this. I think you've witnessed some of it, where people will but you have to support the Democrats. You just have to. You can't let Republicans win. And the Green Party, they're not serious. They can't win, which, of course, they can't win with that attitude. As long as you believe that, and basically your vote is being held hostage. And I tell people the time for change is now. Yes. If you keep waiting for the Democrats to give you an opportunity to vote your conscience, it's never going to come. The Green Party already support an actual Green New Deal. They already support Medicare for all.
Green New Deal too.
What was that?
An ethical Green New Deal too.
Right. Why? So why don't tell me I have to support the Democratic Party and work to reform and evolve them when there's already a party that's already evolved where I want to be? And if we could just get people to understand that, we could break from this duopoly very quickly. But, and I guess this is a good segue to talk about just how nasty both the Democrats and Republicans are when it comes to keeping third parties from making any headway, especially on ballot access, and also the media, the way the media is completely in step with the two-party system.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So in New Jersey, I've only had 2 articles written about me in 2022, And I've only been on News 12 once. They have shut third party out. When Madeline Hoffman was running for U.S. Senate against Menendez in the last election, they actually set up a debate with the Republican, with Menendez, and they called her up and said, oh, you'll be part of the debate too, and stuff like that. And then when the debate happened, they shut her out. They lied to her. And then they secretly held this debate without her. And I'm fighting to get on the debate stage against Menendez because that's who I want to debate. And I'm thinking it's going after the primary, then he'll start debating. And I'm hoping that it doesn't wind up the same way where we're shut out again. And that's why I'm bringing up the issue now instead of later, because nobody wants to, everyone's scared of third party what solution. And because the duopoly in New Jersey, there's no such thing as Democrats or Republicans. It's a uniparty. And a lot of people don't understand New Jersey is like the hub of corruption. I feel like, and a lot of people are like, well, the Dems and the Republicans, no, they're in bed with each other, they hang out with each other, they go golfing with each other. Chris Christie and Cory Booker did a live streaming, making jokes, and I'm like, they're best friends, guys. They've been in the same business for the last 30 years together. They're all best friends. They're not going to fight each other. They're not going to go down each other's throats. They'll do it to entertain us, but they're not actually going to stab each other in the back.
Well, but here, I mean, they've taken away in doing this your legitimacy. And what does that say about their commitment to democracy? You are a citizen running for a position in your government. Mm-hmm. You are doing what the Constitution, the whole American Revolution was about, giving, well, the mythology of it, at least, about giving people a government that is for and by the people. Yep. You are running for a high office. And for them to exclude you and to say you don't deserve ballot access, you don't deserve to debate, that shows such a disdain for democracy that it's almost appalling.
Yeah, and it gets even worse. I've been threatened at my job, and I went on a job interview at another place, and they said, we're not going to hire you because you picked the side. And I'm like, I'm just going against Menendez as a Green Party candidate. And they said, well, you can't run for office. You have to drop out if I give you the job. I'm like, well, I'm not going to drop out. And they're like, well, you can't pick. I'm like, well, I'm picking the side of the people. I'm not going to pick the corrupted side. And they're like, and the woman was just like, yeah, no, it was really nice having this time with you. And I'm just like, well, you have a wonderful day too. And my current job, they said, the law states, and I want to say, I cannot use my position of power to ask for donations or my position of power to get endorsements. And I would never. And it's not because the law states that. It's because I run on a code of ethics and I have licenses that are more important than anything. And I would never abuse my power in any form, way, or shape. And they changed the law for me, and they sent me an email. And I should have sent that to you. I didn't think about it until now. And he said, well, you can't ask for endorsements and you can't ask for donations. I'm like, what? Like, that's not what the law says at all. The law says I can't abuse my power to influence people, and I would never do that.
And speaking of abuse your power for influence, hello, Menendez.
Yeah, but then they enable these people to abuse their power. And it's just... And it's just so appalling. I'm just like, and I'm just so used to these barriers now being placed in front of me, and I shouldn't be used to it. Where I'm just like, it's another barrier. I'm not. It's because the Green Party is a threat, and that's why they keep adding these barriers. It's not just the third party that's having fun. It's when the message gets out there, and the message has gone out there to people, it scares the duopoly. It scares the corrupted people because they're just like, oh my God, they're giving people power. We have to use our power to stop.
Yep. And that's exactly what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. And I have the faith, and just being on podcasts like yours and people that want to meet with me and interview, anyone could reach me, KhalilForSenate.com. Or reach me through Twitter or anything. Just shoot me a message, and we are more than willing to hop on anything. And it's just, it's not surprising. They did that. They told me this was going to happen, and
Yep.
it happened this way. But when it's that level escalated a little bit when they changed the law and they sent me, this version's only for you though.
This is going to be interesting, though, too, because this is exactly what the Democratic Party does to their own, anyone who's progressive that runs inside. Now, I think that RFK is going to be good in this sense because he's going to expose exactly the games the Democratic Party has been playing in a way that, yeah.
He said when he went to, I think it was New Hampshire, he said my votes wouldn't count.
Yeah.
Or something. The only thing I don't, there's the one thing I'm strongly opposed of with RFK's platform is his healing camps, because he hasn't broken down that to the specifics. Where are these guys getting livable wage? What does treatment look like? Because right now it looks like it could possibly be a concentration camp or a prison camp. And that I need more clarification on. And I just need, for the record, I don't support any presidential candidate right now. And currently there isn't any out there that has met my satisfaction.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. And the goal is just right now to build up ethical candidates, because I'd like a full slate in the state of New Jersey.
But that right there, that building up ethical candidates is again, you're facing opposition on that very front.
It really, and they just keep recycling these old candidates. The Jim McGreevey, he's already been governor, he's already been mayor of another town, and now they want to add him to mayor of Jersey City. I'm just like, we got to stop recycling people. At what point do we get new, fresh faces in with new, fresh ideas? Like, this isn't, oh, okay, let's put these seats over here and this person over there. With Menendez's issue, when he was, when they were at first calling him to resign, it was Murphy's wife that was looking at the seat. It was someone's brother that was looking at the seat. And I'm just like, you can't replace one set of corruption with another set of corruption. That's not how it works. You have to, and I'm not a fan of the Democrats, so I even called it out. I was like, you guys aren't even giving the new faces that are of Dems that are going against Menendez a shot. Like, that's inequality that you're saying this belongs to me. No, it doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the best candidate. Who's the best person for the job. There's no seniority. There's no ageism. It's who has the best plan, who's got the best energy, who's hungry for it, and who really wants to actually see effective change instead of being in everybody else's pocket and say, okay, I'll do this for you if you help me get the seat. That's not how it's supposed to be.
No, absolutely. But that's exactly the way they designed the system to be.
Yep. And we just let it go on. They did it in such a way where nobody could see it. And, at first I was part of the Vote Blue no matter who. And then one day I questioned, I'm like, what do you mean the who? No matter who?
Yeah.
What do you mean? And I started doing research on these candidates. And I'm just like, wait a second. This guy reminds me so much of Trump.
Thank you. That's what, I love to tell people, vote blue no matter who. You really mean that? You really mean vote? You're going to do that? Okay, I'll tell you what. Then let's convince Donald Trump to run as a Democrat.
Yeah.
And now, would you vote for him? Oh well, no. Well, no, really. So I guess there's that. Who does matter then?
Yeah, and then we see it with Biden. He's literally taking all of Donald Trump's policies and investing in them. I'm like, wait a second. It's Donald Trump. I'm like, what? This is Trump in the office again. Like, what is happening? And even with the mRNA vaccines, there is and this is where, like, you have to give people choices. And they really invested in Pfizer and Moderna and J&J, and they were all mRNAs. And there's a huge population out there that's against it. I bet people don't know there's a regular vaccine out there for COVID that's not mRNA.
Oh, is there really? I didn't know that.
Yep. And they shut that company out. They will not put that vaccine. They did everything. They're like, well, we need trials and we need this and we need that. I'm like, and when I researched the company, I think it's Novavax. I'm going to have to send you the link.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm like, they did everything what everyone was asking for, and their success rate is high, and it's not an mRNA. Why aren't we investing in this if the general public is saying this is what we want. Okay, there it is. They gave it to us. A company gave it to us.
Yep.
And you're not investing in this because it's not what you want. And I'm like, this is why, like, you feed into these anti-vax. Like, you create these people and then you're saying, no, they're wrong, they're this, they're that. No, give them the solution and invest in all these companies equally. Create a fair market.
That sounds like free market, fair and free markets. That sounds familiar.
Yeah, and that scares them. They're like, no, we want this. No, if you create that free market, that fair market, guess what? Then you'll have everyone happy. You'll have healthy competition. You'll have ethical vaccines, ethical standards to go by, and you don't have that. And if somebody's questioning something, you have the evidence that say, well, compared to this and compared to that, this is less and that's better. And you have people that are capable of doing their own research that are just like, oh, I feel more comfortable with this choice. I feel more safe with that choice. You know what? Let me try this. I like the history of this company. You're creating a better world by that, a better vaccine and better vaccines in general, but you're creating less panic in this community, in this world, in this country.
But part of the problem, though, is where we get this information from the mainstream media, which is also corrupt. I mean, they're professional paid liars. They're mouthpieces for corporations, essentially.
They're not. And it drives me crazy. And now when I watch the news, when they say something, I'm just like, oh, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
So, okay, if Ukraine's winning, that means Ukraine's losing.
Yeah.
If Wall Street's doing good, Wall Street's doing bad.
Yeah.
So whatever they say, it's usually the opposite. That's how I take it. And I'll start doing my research. And I look for independent journalists because that's who I trust.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely same here. And even that is, I mean, it's really gotten to the point where I don't think it's just you and I think a lot of people are doing the same thing. They're like, I don't believe anything that the mainstream media tells me, or I don't believe anything that the establishment is telling me. And that leaves us even in a more precarious place as a society. Because now you do have room for these radical movements. I mean, you look at the very fact that I look into this stuff all the time, did not even know that there was a non-mRNA vaccine for COVID. Again, this is just a testament to how difficult it is to actually find independent voices who are telling you what's actually going on.
Yeah, and I've been following the company. I actually wanted to use their vaccine, and to this day, I'm vaccinated with an mRNA, but I really like their history and their stuff, and to this day, they're still not sold in any pharmacy, and I'm just like, this isn't fair because like we'd have so many more people vaccinated with this vaccine in there.
And the mRNA vaccine has a history that I find concerning.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, and people have a right to be concerned, and what the free market does. And it's not just with the COVID vaccines. It's with every vaccine, the flu shot, with everything. It literally creates healthy competition. And that's what we need, because then that's what's going to give the general public the most trust in one brand. Or multiple brands. Because if we have 10 different pharmaceutical companies, and then the competition, it's not going to be, let's pump out all these vaccines and then let's sell them. It's going to be, okay, my vaccine is going to be better than this person's vaccine. My vaccine is going to have better results than these people, and I'm going to do the best version of this. And that's the kind of competition we need in the world. And that's what's going to help save the world, especially medically, because now we have people that are not getting their kids vaccinated with anything.
Anything, yeah.
And that's dangerous, extremely dangerous. And where they're refusing polio and measles. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. And when they're just like, well, with this company, this is the history of this company, and I don't trust this company. Okay, well, you have a valid point to not trust this company. What are our options on a federal level? What are our options where we can get and just the history of vaccines within this country? If people are like, well, in this year and that year and blah, 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 our government did this and experimented on this. And a lot of people know Tuskegee vaccine, but a lot of people don't know about, there was this one, and I remember learning this a few years ago, and it just literally, it was the most appalling thing ever. They lied to pregnant women.
Oh, right. I think,
Vitamins. Yep.
yes.
And it was radiation pills that because they were just curious what would happen. Common sense says bad things are going to happen. Like, why are we? What the heck are we doing, lying to people? So from history, people have every right to question everything, and that's part of science. And someone who comes from a little bit of a research background and has dove into research, especially during my internships, I understand and I love to question things, and I encourage people to question things. But I also understand what it's the fault of our government why it's gone to the lengths it has. It's not people's fault. It's not our community's fault. We created this fear with the history because it's not just the COVID vaccine. It's the last 100 years.
Yeah.
So it's and now as leaders, how do we gain the public's trust? This would be a good way to gain their trust. Let's invest in that. Let's regain their trust because we've spent so many years losing their trust. And this is our history when it comes to medical procedures, when it comes to medicine in general. This is our medicinal background. And it's just, so now we have to change trajectory, change direction, because it's not how it's supposed to be. So, and that's the route I'm going, because the goal is to create trust when it comes to medicine. And I want to release all research, everything, because it's going to be up to the person, and give people options too. If you don't trust mRNA, that's okay. Then take this version of it. And this is a non-mRNA. There's not a one size fits all. And this is how we work with people. It's not black and white. Black and white is what creates division, and black and white thinking is what harms people. And we have to work as leaders. If you don't have that flexible thinking to go in that gray area, then shame on you. You're a bad leader, and you need to step down and have someone that has the capability with that flexibility. And that's how we're going to gain the public's trust back.
Yeah. And one of the things, and I guess I should have mentioned this earlier too, is I want to talk about you, your professional, what you do professionally, because you're a scientist yourself.
Oh, no, I'm a therapist.
But you're a psychologist, correct?
I don't have my PhD.
Well, still, you're in a field of science. Yeah. I mean, I would call you a social scientist.
Yeah, well, that's a nice way of putting it. I've never been called that. So I'm a therapist, and I've worked with mental health, with community, and with substance abuse for the last, I want to say, 8 years. And it has been, and this goes into my childhood too. So I'm a first generation Egyptian, and the war on drugs broke up my family, and my father was very abusive, and I was in and out of foster homes. And then when I came back, he threatened my mom, and my mom signed her parental rights away, thinking it was safer that way. And then I grew up in and out of foster homes. And then I remember I'm part of actually the community. Some of my best memories were in the Conklin Youth Shelter. And a lot of people are like, oh, no, you're in a youth shelter. I'm like, no, this is great. These guys are like my family. Like, we still keep in contact. And even like with the group, for people when we weren't in the shelter, we all communicate with each other. Like, we're all like soul sisters and brothers. and the staff there like created such a safe environment for us, because like we were kids, we were teenagers, and like we're just like, oh, you're back here again. Okay, well, let's cheer you up. Let's go outside. Let's get some. Like, they really treated us like we were their own. And I just had such great, wonderful organizations always helping me. And I remember when I graduated high school and I got enrolled in college. I don't know how I got accepted. I got accepted. I was like, I'm going to go to college and whatnot. And they accepted me. And I remember I was telling the organizations like Bergen's Promise and stuff like that. But this was a different time, because now there's a lot of issues with these organizations. A lot of people are underpaid and overworked. Yep. And back then it was a much different world. But when I was growing up, they were so supportive. and they were always there for me. And when I graduated high school, I'd never seen so many people cry. And I never really understood the severity of my situation. And they really, and now that I'm older, like I can say like, wow, I was really in a bad situation. They really thought like, they were like, we thought you were going to die. We thought someone was going to kill you. And I was just like, and they were just like, you're going to college. Like, I never thought this would happen. And I was just like, well, I don't, and back then I was like, so what do you mean? And now I'm growing up, I'm like, wow, I was really placed in a lot of bad situations where like,
Yeah.
oh, I shouldn't have even graduated high school. And then I went to college, and I had to take out, and a lot of people don't, they're just like, and this goes into student loans. I actually had to take out a lot of student loans to live on campus because they didn't have a stable home environment. And I was always hopping around to and from in between semesters. And it did impact my ability to focus on school, because in the beginning of school, my grades were always great. And then toward the end of school, I'm just like, wait, where am I going to live now? How's this going to look? It was hard to focus on school because I had to focus on like where I'm going to live. And then afterwards, I'm like, I'm going to figure out my life. And I got a full-time job, and I was homeless after college. And it was even harder. I'm like, okay, I got this degree, but nobody's hiring me, and I'm homeless, and I was actually living in the dorms still.
Wow.
I wasn't even supposed to be living in the dorms, and they found out I was living in the dorms, and they kicked me out, and that was a whole other issue. And I was just like, but there was no family, there were no resources for me. And I was just like, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. And I'm bouncing around. And then eventually, like, I got an apartment. And I'm just like, the apartment was only $800 a month, but I was working a full-time and a part-time. I'm like, I can barely still afford this. I'm like, I can't. I'm like, this is crazy. And then I met some friends. Well, I had some friends from college that I met, and they were just like, let's get an apartment together. And so we'll cheapen everything. It was 4 of us living in a 2-bedroom apartment. We had to like separate everything so like everyone got their own privacy. And that was a fun time too. But it's just like, I'm like, I got my degree that everyone said I should get, and I'm still struggling. And if it wasn't for my friends, what the heck would have happened to me?
Yeah.
And then I wound up, staying with, I wound up getting in a very unhealthy relationship. And then I wound up again homeless, leaving that relationship. And it was such a traumatic thing. And I'm just like, I don't have anywhere to go, and I don't have any family. And it always boggled my mind where people was like, well, just call your parents or call this I'm like, I don't have people to call. I don't think you guys understand. Like,
yeah,
I don't come from a rich background. Like, it's just me figuring this out. And then I finally ran into a landlord that decided to work with me. And he was just like, this is your rent. This is how much you're going to pay. Because I was like, I need a place. And he was like, I really like you. You're really nice. I know you through other people. So it was, thank God there was like that little bit of history. And he was
yeah.
And he's like, I'm not raising your rent. This is how we're going to do it. And I'm not. And I was just like, sweet. That's amazing. So I was able to get 2 jobs. And that was at the age of 24. I finally got my own place. And it was the first moment in my life where I felt safe. And it was just, I never realized, because, what it's like, you're in survival mode, and you think survival mode and this high anxiety, the state of anxiety, it's normal. And it's really not. And then when I finally got my own place, I was just like, wow, I felt like 5,000 pounds just lifted from me. And I was just like, I've never felt safe ever in my entire life. And then I wound up getting into a very healthy relationship. And through him, and we're still together now, through him, we actually, I never had anyone in my corner really like him. And I never had anyone that was so supportive. And I was like, I want to go back to school, because I know with my degree in psychology, I was like, I can't do anything. I need my master's degree. He was like, well, then go back to school. I'm like, well, this is what it looks like. And he was like, I'm going to stop you right there. We'll figure it out. do you want your degree? Go back to school. I was just like, oh, I was like, okay, like I never had that before. And then I went back to school. It took me 4 years to get my master's degree, and a lot of people, I'm just like, I got it. Like it took me much longer because I still had to work, and I still had to pay my bills and stuff like that. But it was really just, I never thought I would even get my master's degree. And I'm duly licensed right now. I'm working toward my LSW to get 3 licenses, and I never ever thought I'd ever have a life like this.
Yeah.
And I can't afford a house, but I still have my apartment that I feel safe in. And I'm just like, I want to give this back to everyone. I said to myself when I was in school, I was like, if I ever, and I learned a lot more about policies while I was going for my master's in social work, because social work, we deal with a lot of policies.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
I was just like, wow, I was just like, I didn't know this. And then researching Menendez and what the U.S. Senate controls versus where I'm just like, oh, on a federal level, I can take care of this and tackle this. And then internationally, I could even bring this. I was like, if I ever had the opportunity to run, I would take it because I want to remove that fear from everybody. I don't want anyone ever to go through what I went through because it wasn't easy. I've been exposed to predators as a teenager. I almost got trafficked twice. And one was through my I never reported it. One was an actual teacher at my high school. And then afterwards, and one was someone that I worked with, and I wound up quitting that job because I was 16 and I just had like this danger inside of me that said run away. And he was married. People don't realize it's your neighbors, the people you less suspect. And he was just like, well, you're 16 and you would be like starting a little older than what normal girls start. I'm like, start at what? He's like, stripping and working with people. And I'm like, I don't think this is right. I thought you had to be 18 to do this stuff. He's like, no, they just say that. And I'm just like, and I was believed, but it's something inside me said, run and get away. And I ran, and I never went back to that job, and I never reported it either. And it wasn't, and I've gone through very, very horrendous experiences, and some I won't even share because it could be very triggering to others. But it's just like, how do I prevent other people going from this? And a lot of people think, because there's also like the segment in this world happening right now where it's like, we have to protect women. I'm like, what about the boys? Because I've met so many boys and men that have been violently raped. Who's protecting them? You have to protect everyone. And I work to this day. I still have people come up to me when I work with them, and they're disclosing stuff. And I'm so thankful that they feel so safe and so comfortable to open up to me. And these are males that are just like, I couldn't, no one cared that I got raped. I'm like, Jesus Christ, we can't just focus on women. We have to focus on these little boys too. We have to protect everyone equally. And so I had the opportunity to run it. I'm like, I'm going to give this 1,000% because I never want anyone to feel so scared, so helpless, so hopeless. And on a federal level, I can remove that from people. And I want these transitions, and I want people that are aging out of the system to have better solutions, better resources. But even if you're not aging out, I want you to have such a happy life. I want people to have access to mental health, to medical, whatever they need. And I remember even insurance, I am tied to my job, and I'm just like, and because I don't have money and I don't have family, I'm like, oh my God, what if I have cancer one day? Because I've ran into people and I fight so hard for universal health care. Because the one thing that terrifies me is some of the people that I've worked with, and I have to fight with insurance companies, and I always fight for my clients, is I have parents that have to work full time while their kid has cancer.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a second. And I've ran into people that I've worked with, and they're like, yeah, I got stage 3 cancer, stage 2 cancer. And I know one person right now, they have stage 4 cancer. They still have to work full time for the last 4 years while going to treatment. They've been working full time. And I'm just like, I'm like, this is so appalling. And that these people, like, we've already done more than enough with our taxes, with our hard work, with our functioning. When we get sick, it's time for the country to take care of us.
Yeah.
Invest in us because we invest in this country, and that's not fair. And welfare has to get redesigned. If a person's going through cancer, we'll pay for your mortgage, we'll pay for your rent, I will give you food stamps. I need your focus to be on healing, because that funeral, the pain your family goes through, or whether it's addiction treatment or overdose or anything, that pain, I don't want your family to go through that pain. And a lot of these deaths are so preventable, and people don't realize that, and they're just like, well, I'm like, and they'll say, well, if I went to the doctor earlier, but you didn't have the energy or time to go to the doctor earlier because you have to work 2 jobs.
Yep.
And that's the fault. That's failed policies that have led to that.
Absolutely. I can't agree with you more. And do you, again, it's all about this profit-centered model of healthcare and recovery. I mean, mental health care in this country, it almost doesn't exist.
No, it doesn't.
And that's you can see the symptoms of that on society everywhere you go.
Oh yeah, and one of my favorites is New Jersey. And then this is where police brutality comes in.
Yeah.
New Jersey specifically, just they passed a law a couple of years ago that says if our officers have PTSD, they're still allowed to work.
What?
Yep. And I'm just like, that doesn't make any sense, because, and this isn't not a knock at first responders.
Right.
I've worked with first responders too. This is, they just don't want to invest in their mental health, because a mentally healthy officer will do so much good in the community versus an unhealthy officer. And this is also tied into addiction. And a lot of people don't realize there are so many barriers for so many professionals that they can't receive treatment. So when it comes to the EAS program, employee assistance program, within the country and the police unions in general, when you go for treatment, that's in a public file. And if you're going for a promotion, they weaponize that file against you. So we have, and it's not just police officers, firefighters, police, EMTs, anesthesiologists, doctors, lawyers, a whole bunch of public important roles. They're not functioning, but they're holding on users, nurses, doctors. They are abusing substances, and a lot of the times they're just like, I can't go for treatment because we're understaffed, because this is going to happen. They're going to weaponize this. And if everyone's saying the same thing, that treatment has become so political within their business, it's not a lie, because these people don't know each other, but they're all saying the same thing.
Same thing, yeah.
So you prevent people from getting treatment. You have these unhealthy people in the community, and then you're just like, oh, now we have these shoot first, ask questions later. And then you're just like, why don't people trust cops?
Yep.
Not taking care of it from the root source. And it's our responsibility to make sure if someone's going to hold the gun, they are mentally sane, that they are mentally healthy to hold the gun. And I was talking to a police department, a police officer. Somebody witnessed a kid's head get run over, one of the officers, and he had to pick up and clean up that scene and had to take the report, and he was so mentally distraught. They gave him 2 days off. Just 2 days. And I'm just like, that man's got so much trauma and PTSD, because these guys are the first line when it comes to traumatic events, and same thing with EMTs and the cleanup crews and stuff like that. That these people, if it comes to that level, they might have to be in treatment for 6 months or a year before they can return to the force. And you have to invest, because we have hundreds of officers that hate what's happening in the community and in the world, and they're blowing their effing brains out. on a daily basis, on a month. New Jersey is just 12 officers a month alone that are killing themselves. And
wow.
yeah, and that's a lot. And there are no interventions. And this is because you're putting sick people and you're telling people you can't have sleep, you're overworked, you're not allowed to have emotions. And then you're shocked that the community response is, we don't trust these people. You're the reason there's such a division, and it's the politicians. It's their responsibility that this police and community division is happening. They don't care about the community. They don't care about the police officers, and they don't want to unite anybody. And my policy is to tackle police brutality at the root. We're going to do complete assessments, and we're going to separate mental health calls. You don't need to have your hands in everything. If there's a domestic crime happening, attend that. And when it comes to mental health, then I'm going to have special mental health professionals that are trained in this attend that situation. And very rare does it ever turn violent. And a lot of people are like, well, when a mental health person is acting out, I've had people on speedball, sweating, sleeping, going in the middle of psychosis where I've been alone and I've been able to diffuse the situation. Like, I have had people on PCP where they have lost control of their body and I've been able to get them to focus on me. And I've had people in the worst mental health crisis where they were just like, I'm going to go kill myself in front of me. And I have been able to get them the proper help and get them to the hospital. And none of this resulted in police ever coming and intervening, ever. And it's not a knock on the police where, hey, we should have been. No, because they were so scared, because when the police come, it does usually escalate because they don't have the training and people wind up getting in charge. And when I need people to get help, I don't give a shit if the person's got fucking needles. Excuse my language.
No, go ahead.
The person's got needles or drugs or whatever. I need them to go get help. I don't care if they're just let me go buy a dime bag. I'm just you could buy it, but you're not taking that into the detox, so you're wasting your money. You might as well hold it because you got to go through withdrawal anyway to get into detox. So they're just oh, when you put it that way. I'm so we're going into detox. So it's just, I don't need the police there because that's just going to scare them. No one feels safe. So we got to tackle it. And at this moment, because of our current political atmosphere, we need to separate. There are people within the communities that are more than capable of that, currently have programs where we can invest in these programs, invest in community responses, and get better outcomes. And then we can slowly reintegrate the police back into the communities and say, okay, this is how we're going to change the communication. This is how we're going to rechange the trust. And build on the trust and get the unity. But everyone has this black and white thinking. It's either police or the community. And I've worked with first responders and in the community. And the problem isn't with either or. The problem is with our current establishment creating this division. Yep. And it's just them saying oh, I don't care if the cop blows their brains out. I don't care if the cop kills this person. That's what our current, they don't, because they sleep at night. They don't care. So we need effective leaders that are going to go into office and immediately change this direction that it's happening, this environment, this world that it's happening in, and capable of tackling both issues at once. Because I already have programs I plan to invest in and even expand on a countrywide to see, okay, this is how we're going to put it in there. And then even because I forgot, there are some counties out there in certain states, and I can't remember which county. I remember somebody telling me about PA. One county only has 2 officers. But I'm just what the hell are 2 officers supposed to do? Yeah. Especially when there's domestic violence and there's multiple crimes happening at once, what the hell are they supposed to do? Investing in resources where they're not alone, but then their hands are in everything. And then even having the officers focus on more important things like missing kids, missing people. You don't need to be in mental health. You need to find these people that are missing. You need to find actual criminals. Addictions, mental health, that's medical. We already have the science to prove it. That's not a crime. And that's how we're going to handle that. And we're going to, my campaign's going to tackle both issues at the same time.
Yeah, that's exactly. See, and we're talking about actual solutions rather than just band-aids on symptoms.
Yeah. And our current attorney general, when Najee Seabrooks was murdered, his situation was very preventable. The mental health team was outside for 4 hours, and for 4 hours they refused and let Najee to get worse and worse and worse mentally. And they refused to let the mental health team in. Then they came in very aggressively with his guns pointed, and with their guns pointed, and then they all just fired on him. His death was preventable.
Oh, absolutely.
He didn't have to. That did not have to happen. And what a lot of people don't realize when it comes to fight or flight mode, well, when it comes to extreme crisis, the brain's in fight or flight mode. So a person's going to subconsciously respond. They're not actually going to be able, their frontal lobe or decision-making part, that is completely shut down when a person's like in crisis, because they have to go into survival mode. So they're not able to have rational thinking. And when you come in and subconsciously guns pointed at you is aggressive, a person's body's only going to respond.
Yeah.
They're not going to be able to say, oh, they came in because, they're fearful for their life. The person's not in a rational state. That's why it's called a mental health crisis.
Yeah. And your entire platform is it's everything that I expect the progressive Democrats to be doing, right? And yet they're not fighting for this. And it just boggles the mind that you're running against this guy who had gold bars.
Oh yeah.
In his house.
Dude.
Yeah. I mean, it's just mind-boggling. I want to talk to you also, and you brought some receipts with you as well. I want to get to those in just a moment. But I want to talk to you about the housing crisis, because you kind of touched upon that. You know firsthand what it's like to be without housing.
Oh my gosh, yes.
What plans do you have to address the housing crisis?
So we have let me pull up the year quickly.
Sure.
Where is my housing? Okay. In actually, I don't have the year. 1940, FDR was in office. He created a federal block, and now I can't remember the name of it. But I do remember. So he made sure that inflation didn't impact. So it was a federal level of income, and that nobody could raise rent, nobody could price gouge, and these were set prices. So it's really expanding on that and making sure everyone has a livable wage. So if you're not going to raise everyone's prices to a livable wage, we're going to knock everything down to match this actual law that was already passed. And then we're going to also, on a federal level, remove the Fair Cloth Child Act, whereas I'm going to amend that, where when it comes to affordable housing, because we're seeing all these luxury apartments.
Yeah, I know. God.
And I'll get into that in a minute, because these pilot programs are another issue. Is we're going to remove it so people we could build more federal affording houses, apartments and housing in these areas, because right now there's zoning issues. So you can't actually build new federal affordable houses. You can only tear down what's currently there and rebuild on that spot. So we're going to remove that zoning. So we're going to have more affordable housing, and making sure people that have limitations get the support and the housing that they need if they can't work. Because everyone, at the end of the day, housing is mental health. Basic needs are mental health. Utilizing Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that's just that basic, the physiological section, that's all mental health. And then we can get to the root issue and move forward from there. And going on to the current pilot housing is a percentage of that housing, and I 30 to 50%, depending on what county and what state, what the rules and regulations are. You're supposed to actually be able to give a percentage of those new apartments to low income residents and to people on Section 8. These guys are getting bill cuts. I know in Hackensack, New Jersey, one of the pilot programs, they're not spending taxes for 30 years. and they're not investing in taxes for 30 years, and other people have investments that are elected officials within these pilot programs, but they're not allowing people, they're not following their end of the bargain of the affordability. So they're not, it has to, so they're going into this and they're saying, yes, we agreed to have these many apartments, affordable housing, but they're lying. It's 100% you have to be rich to afford this housing, or we're just going to have empty apartments. Because if you're not rich to afford this housing and you can't spend $2,000 or $2,500, you deserve to be homeless because you're poor. And there's no, and it boggles my mind, because it's like, if a person's working, they deserve the, and we're saying a healthy person in this scenario. I'm not saying if a person has a disability and is not capable of working. That's right. A whole other beast in itself that we have to tackle, where they do need to have the housing. And we're America, right? We're supposed to take care of each other. This is all patriotism, right? It's like, oh, the world came together after 9/11, but that's what we have to go back to. Everyone's preaching that. The only way to go back to that is we have to make sure everyone's taken care of. No one's value is lesser because they make less money. All of our value is equal. You can't put a dollar price on a human person. Everyone's priceless. So we have to go into, okay, so now, and then other families and people are actually bringing it up and calling it out, saying, they're not allowing affordable housing. They're not following this percentage of the pilot programs, and they're actually kicking out people that are Black and brown and people that make under a certain amount out. And this is where gentrification going in, because now we're going redlining again, but to an extreme. And then they're just saying, the government are just saying, oh no, it's just how it is. I'm like, well, this is against the law. And why aren't we following our own laws? Like, we have our own regulations, and you put this in saying, a person, these many apartment complexes have to abide by this. That's not a good enough answer.
Yeah.
That's not good at all. What are you saying? Like, you're not even answering the question. You're just like, I see what you're saying. What? No, give me a solution. Stop brushing it off. And that's what's happening to everyone, and they're just allowing it because and then in New Jersey, what's happening in Atlanta now, after we're pushing out poor people out of these communities, is you're pushing them into these very impoverished communities where taxes are being embezzled, where money is not being funneled, where you're making sure the school system's very poor, and now you're purposely creating and funding the school to prison pipeline. And now these are the areas you just happen to be building cop cities in at the same time.
No kidding, right?
Yeah. So you're not creating an equal opportunity for all. You're creating an opportunity for families that have money, not for people that want it. And the current establishment, the Democrats, they're saying, and I was talking to other people, and a lot of people don't see this viewpoint. I am very pro-choice, but what I am not for is pro-force. And our current establishment, they're like, abortion access for all. A lot of these people are forced to get abortions because housing is unaffordable. They can't afford their kids. They can't afford to add a new addition. The job will fire them. So our current policies force a lot of people to get abortions that do not want abortions. And the alternative is, you have this kid and you can't afford to have this baby, the state will come in and remove your baby. They're not going to say, so they're going to fund in placing this baby in another home, but what they're not going to fund is getting you into an apartment and saying, okay, let's get you set up. Let's make sure we help you find a job that works with childcare. Maybe we'll get you a work from home job. We'll make sure you're situated. We're going to make sure we set you up well. We'll help you with postpartum. And that trauma alone in itself, with this pro-force abortion that our establishment is funding, is extreme, because you have people that I deal with, people that cry, that are so heartbroken. They're like, I want this baby so bad, and I can't have this baby because I can't afford it. And that is trauma that a person can't get over. And then at first they blame themselves. They're like, if I was just richer, if I had a good job, maybe if I had a supportive family, maybe if I had this, but they don't have, and then it takes a lot of therapy, and then they're just like, it's just how it is, it wasn't meant to be at this time, but then I'm going to work hard, and then I'm going to make sure I can afford, having the baby the next time. But it doesn't have to be that way in the first time.
Absolutely.
And it's just, and a lot of people are like, well, if a person gets raped, they should have, look, a person's allowed to choose whatever they want, but that's the only argument that they have. At the end of the day, it's a person's decision, but we also have to make it an even playing field for everyone that's pregnant. Like everyone that wants to have a child, we have to create that even playing field, because they're just like, well, what if that, I don't want, what if that they have, like, what if your baby cures cancer or whatnot? Well, we have kids now that are in marginalized communities that they might be able to have, the cure for cancer, but you're building Cop City and you're saying they're poor and they don't deserve the proper education. So I don't know what this is going to do, but a lot of people have like these dreams and these aspirations, and a lot of people are fine with being single parents too, and that's what a lot of people don't even realize. So they're just like, I just need a good job and an affordable place to live, and this and that, and I'm fine with raising a kid by myself. But they just force it, like, and for a lot, someone was telling me, and I didn't realize, they're like, for a lot of marginalized people, abortion's their only option. And I'm just like, you know what? I never realized that. I knew it was forced upon people and pressured. I never realized that was a lot of people's only options. And it breaks my heart, because then I have to see them in the aftermath, and I have to like walk them through this trauma and help them on their healing journey. And a lot of it is just so preventable. It's just like, what is the point of being and I get it, like, what's the point of being a law-abiding citizen at the end of the day? You pay your taxes, you do everything right, and then in return, you just get treated horribly.
Yeah.
Horribly. What is the point of it? So
well, it's needless. It's needless suffering and needless death.
Yeah. It's just, and then also, it's like, even I've had, and this goes back into the cancer part. Like, I've had parents not just who's their kid, and then the next day they're forced to go to work because they can't even get time off. And there's a place in Mahwah, New Jersey, I remember it was a little talk. The guy was having chest pains and asked for a week off from work, and he was like, I think I need to have some time off, I'd like a vacation. This guy doesn't take a vacation ever, and it wasn't my job, it was just within the community, because it was such a shock to the entire actual county that a lot of people were talking about it. And he went to sleep and he didn't wake up. He had a heart attack because of the stress the job was placing on him. And this is a labor job where he had to build things, and it's not an 8-hour shift where, just go to the doctor afterwards. These are 10-12-hour jobs 7 days a week, and you were lucky to get one day off. And I just happened to understand and know people there that explained what the environment was like. This guy didn't have a shot. And then you have people that are so scared, where like, he's the breadwinner and there's no fallback for these people that are working, and he's got 3 kids to take care of. But when he needs help, who's there to help him?
Yeah.
But he's, and at the same time, he's building medical equipment. So he's helping hospitals. He's helping people that are about to go to surgery. He's helping people get hip and knee replacements. He's actually helping people. But when he needs help,
where are we?
Yeah, and he's not the only person. There's a ton of people out there that are not getting the help that they need, where you're doing such a commitment to the community, to this country, to the world, that when if you need to fall, who's there to catch you? And that's where we need actual political leaders that are going to be in office to say, I'm going to be there for you when you're at your lowest. And I will help you up. We will help you up. And then when you're capable and you're better, then we'll get back to work.
Yeah.
And then you're able to do what you have to do. But until then, like, and then now these 3 kids don't have a father, and they have a mom that's gone through so much trauma because she had to bury the husband, bury their father. She's got to be there for these kids. But who's there for her? Because she's got to keep it together for these kids, and she's not even able to address her trauma with this. And so it's like, now what's going to happen? Because these kids, she's going to be working. These kids are going to have to raise each other.
Yeah. And it's going to repeat a cycle.
Yeah. So at what point, and I'm all about, even with my own trauma, with the way I grew up, how do we intervene? How can we make sure we're not repeating cycles? What is this cutoff? What's the intervention? Instead of going in a full circle, or where's that diagonal where now it's like I just made a left.
Yeah.
So, and that's what I want to do for this entire country. I want us to go completely left. I want us to all make a complete change. And I want us to heal, we can heal this world. We could rebuild relationships internationally. We can get people to start loving America instead of hating America. And right now, with the political heat, I said it. I think that the draft should be abolished. Because what you already treat everyone horrendously. There is not one person that should be forced to go fight for a country that's not fighting for their citizens.
Yeah, hey, I've been preaching that for years.
Yeah, and I don't. When people are just like, if the draft happens, I'm going to break my ankle. Hey, I'll help you if you need it. I don't want to break your ankle, but if you're too, I'm for it. Whatever you need. I would not register if they're just like, we need therapists and people to go overseas to help with people. No, I'll stay here. We need therapists here. And I wouldn't at first, before, I did all this research, you could have asked me like 10 years ago and I would have been like, yeah, I'll go overseas and help people. But now I'm like, no, you're not helping people here.
Here. Yeah.
But what's the point of going overseas? And then if we're talking about our veterans and our actual active soldiers, you treat everyone like crap.
Yep.
Like, I have to deal with soldiers, veterans that struggle with addiction that are just like, this was the 3rd time I tried to kill myself. I'm just like, okay, what's the intervention? How can we help you? Well, I need this, and this because the VA won't help me with this. And I'm like, well, if you did all this, why is the VA saying no? They're like, oh, well, It's because they said it's not good enough for it. I'm like, what? You sacrificed your body, your mind, your soul. You did things no one should do. You put yourself in the front line, and the VA can't even take care of you. And our current political leaders are just like, that's perfectly fine. Let's take more money out. I'm like, no, I would, and I think it's patriotic to stand up for people and say, and people are like, oh no, that's not patriotic. You're a U.S. Senate candidate. Okay, I'm a U.S. Senate candidate for the people. I'm not a U.S. Senate candidate for the war machine.
Yeah.
2 different things. I'm just like, I'm here. I don't want people to come back with trauma, because when soldiers come back, there's no vetting system. There's no reintegration. A lot of veterans have told me, if we had proper reintegration system into the civilian world, we would have a higher success rate. They just push them forward and say, okay, you're out, go home. And then they're left on their own with their PTSD. And I'm like, this is just wild. And I have to sit there and I'm just like, okay, how the heck do I help this person when this should have already been done?
Yeah.
They're in the worst case that you could even imagine, the worst version of themselves that you can imagine. And I'm just like, I just feel so, and I'm so lucky. I do have to say, I'm super lucky for the other social workers and the other therapists that are within the community and the other activists, because I could just make one phone call and I could say, I don't know what to do or how to refer this person. Can you help me figure it out? And we are such a team in New Jersey and it's such a small network of people, which is really funny. But it's like, okay, we can get this person here, we can get this person there. And a good example, and I was just talking to the woman who helped me yesterday, and there is this guy, and I love to bring it up, and like, this is the extreme teamwork, and this is how bad the policies are. During COVID, when I was working in the hospital, we would get people to come in, and we would get and it would be me first, and then if the insurance approved him, this is where the fee for profit comes in. You have to get the fee approved before anyone's allowed to get any help.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, if the insurance deemed the person worthy of treatment, then we can go help them, and then they would get tested for COVID, and then we would find out if the person was should be in a single or double bed or whatever. And but this one guy came in, and he got denied. But when I was sitting with him, he was like, I'm HIV positive. HIV positive. And I called, and the insurance got denied, but administrators was like, push him out. We got to get the other person. I was like, wait, I'm like, I always argued with administration because I'm just like, we're not pushing people out. I need to make sure, like, by law, we have to give 3 referrals, and we have to set them up, and I have to make sure they have transportation. So every client that got denied, it was a fight. Every person that got denied, it was a fight because they're like, no, next person, let's get them in. We got to fill the bed. And I'm like, it's not about these are people. And then he was like, I have a new baby. And I was like, wait. I'm like, okay. I'm like, you said you're using, and you said you've been struggling on the street. When was the last time you got your medication for HIV? He was like, it's been a year. And I'm like, what? A year? I'm just like, okay. I'm just like, I'm like, and he was like, yeah, I lost 20 pounds, but I can't determine whether it was his HIV turned into AIDS or it was the heroin use. Because a person does lose a ton of weight with using heroin. And I was just like, okay, this is, he's like, I have a baby, a newborn. I'm like, you're having unprotected sex? He was like, yeah, but the baby doesn't have it. And I was just like, okay, I know the baby can't have it. What about your wife? He was like, I don't think she has it. She's not sick. And
wow.
So, but it's not it's not his fault because his education on this, his cognitive ability is so declined. So the person that said he had the diagnosis, no one gave him like the actual, he just knew he was positive, but they didn't set him up with doctors. And he learned last year. And then his wife, her education level is so low, and it's just like, where I come from, we have to meet a person where they're at. So I can't say a person's capable of understanding or functioning on my level. And I'm very blessed to have my level, and took a lot of education to get to my level of thinking, of critical thinking or rationalization, stuff like that. But I can't say like, oh, this person should have known better because this person didn't know. So I'm just like, okay. I'm like, do you suspect that it could have turned into AIDS? And he's like, I don't know, but I think it's fine because I haven't been sick. And I'm just like, okay, let's set you up. And my administration's mad at me. And I'm just like, I have to get him into a doctor's appointment. I can't just send this guy away because one, he's going through a withdrawal for heroin. And if he leaves, he's already at risk of risking others because he's an IV user. He's got a newborn baby. And I'm just like, if someone's saying, we'll share a needle to use, this person's in active use, they're going to say, yeah, I'll share a needle. They're not going to be able to rationalize within that moment. So I'm like, okay, the community's at risk. Everything's at risk. And I told this to the insurance company. I called them back. I called them. I was just like, well, then they're like, no, you have to wait 24 hours because he already got denied. I'm like, what? This is just crazy. So I called my friend up. I'm like, I am at a loss because he can't go to the emergency room. The ER doctor's telling me him having potential AIDS is not an emergency, and him going through withdrawal is not an emergency, and because he's not in cardiac arrest and all. I'm like, wait a second. I'm like, this is an emergency. I'm like, we need to be more proactive instead of reactive. So he's not passed out, but I'm like, this is a community and a health risk at this point. So I was like, I need him to get on his medication. I need him to get Suboxone. I need him to get help, but my hospital's refusing to help. So she called, this woman is like my guardian angel for like impossible cases. So I tell her, I'm like, you're like my angel for impossible cases all the time. She got a doctor to say, bring him to this hospital. I'm going to treat him and restart. I'm going to test his blood cells, and we'll get him on the right medications. And I'll make sure he's set up within the community with the right resources for follow-up. And I will make sure that he starts. And ER doctors do not do that. So this guy took extra time out of his day to say, I'm going to take on the special case because of this woman. And I was just like,
wow.
thank you, God, because I'm just like, the last thing I want, he's got a newborn, he's got a wife. I don't want them to have to get news that this guy died. I want him to be successful. I want him to, in not his recovery, but in his health treatment. I want him to get the education that he needs. And I'm not in the position at a detox to give him this education or the resources needed. So I was just like, he needs immediate attention. I can't wait a week. I can't wait 24 hours. I need this now. She was able to pull it off. And I was able to set him up with a free ride and Uber him to the other hospital. And I was just so thankful for these people within the community, because without them, who would have known? Without these people, there are just so many people that I've come across where, what if I didn't have the resources? What if I didn't have this network? What if I didn't have these people? And now I'm doing this on a political level where I still have the people, but now I'm adding more with the Green Party. And now I'm adding more with activists. And I'm like, we're just growing. And it's wonderful. And I don't ask for recognition at all. And I want my bosses to say thank you. But I don't ask anything of my clients. I want my bosses to say thank you, because I'm like, I work for you, so I want you to recognize me. But
Yeah.
like, when I have a mom or a dad or a husband or a wife that's just crying, they're just like, I never thought that this could be I thought this was always going to be the worst outcome. I never thought I'd have a happy ending. I'm just like, wow, okay, this is what I do it for. Sometimes it's exhausting when you have staff and administration that is just so against helping people, and you're in the field of helping, and you're just like, I don't care anymore. And they're just like, let this person, who cares if this person dies? I'm like, well, I care, because then I have to answer to like their parents.
Yeah.
I never want to be the person to deliver that bad news. I always want to be the person that delivers that happy news, where it's just like, oh, okay, they're sober and we're ready to bring you guys back together, and we're ready to work on family therapy, and we're ready for this, and and it's just, that's what I want. I want to hear that hope, and that's what I fight for every day. So, and that's what I want to fight for on a country level. Now I want to bring this on a bigger level where I'm putting more, I want the budget, because with that budget, I'm investing more in resources that actually work and actually able to help people. Menendez's seat in 2024.
Well, that is a great note. We're almost out of time, but I want to get to the receipts that you brought. Yes. And then we also have a campaign video that I think people are going to enjoy. So let's get to the first document.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So this one was actually in our last election. This goes to show how there's no such thing as progressive Democrats in New Jersey, and they even push us out. So in June of 2023, these were local elections. They set it up in a way where you only can vote for one group of people. So as you see, you couldn't vote for these people individually. You could only vote for the box. So with the South Jersey Progressive Democrats, all those seats would have been empty if they voted for the Progressive Democrats. So it forced people to vote for the Camden County corrupted corporate Democrats instead. So they had all the seats filled. So you could not switch progressives out with the corporate people. And it upset so many of the progressive Democrats. And that's when I was like, wow, this is really what I'm up against, that they're separating people that have solutions with people that are just like part of the machine, that they went to this length, and to refuse the individual vote where it's like, oh, I like this person, but I don't like that person. You were forced to vote for people you didn't even like, because you're just like, well, if all these seats are empty, what's going to happen?
That's insane.
That really is.
Yeah, this is not what democracy is supposed to look like whatsoever.
No. And then they when the progressive Democrats brought it up, they were told right after voting, they were like, this isn't a fair election, and this was rigged, and they're absolutely right, it was rigged. And then this one corrupt person who's always in the pockets, he goes, well, you had 24 hours to look at it and decide. Well, what would have happened in 24 hours? You're not going to shut down and redesign the entire ballot. You're not going to sit here and separate everyone. So 24 hours did absolutely nothing. That was already an impossible time frame to review everything. So what would you're not going to push back the election. you're going to move forward with it.
Unbelievable. And then we've also got a conversation thread.
Yes. So that was, I am in the green. I want to say New Jersey. I would like to stay. Okay. So yeah, I'm in the green. That was my conversation with someone part of the Democratic committee, and they were trying their hardest to get me. She was on my team. She was really trying to get through. She was like, come on, Christina's great. She was really trying to break through. And I was just like, well, I want to stay in contact with this person in the Democratic committee because, you know, they were really nice. And they were nice to my face, but behind my back, they were something else. And then she responds, well, they're not going to support your campaign because that's Menendez's friend. I'm just like, are you serious? And then in the second conversation box, she goes, well, she's not going to support your campaign pretty much. I'm like, really? I didn't know that. Did she give a reason why? And it's because she's Menendez's friend and she's not going to go support someone that's going to go against Menendez. And I'm just like, what? With all the corruption? This is his second federal trial. Like, are you guys kidding me right now? So that point, I knew that I was just like, I don't stand a chance. The only actual chance I have at making effective change is through a third party.
Yeah.
Through the Green Party, because I can't do it any other way. And the only way to save lives and save the people and make real impacts is through Green Party, because the Democratic, there's no reforming the party at all. And
you have this excellent graphic. Red, blue, boo-hoo, Green Party, New Jersey, woo-hoo. Hashtag Heal with Khalil 2024. Which, before we get to your campaign ad, I want to ask, where can people go to support you, to donate, to help your campaign, to volunteer? Where can they go?
Right now, you guys could go to KhalilForSenate.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at Khalil4NewJersey, on Instagram, Khalil4NewJersey, on TikTok, Khalil4NewJersey. And that's where you guys will, I'm most active on Twitter. So Christina Khalil4NewJersey. I just followed you, by the way.
Oh, I'll have to go on that. And is that so I want to spell Khalil for my audience. Khalil is Khalil.
Yep.
And your Twitter address and so forth, is that the number 4 or the word 4?
Number 4.
Number 4.
And actually, if you go to my website, it'll be easy because all my tags are on my website.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so the website, once again, is Khalil?
Yep. It's KHALILFORSENATE.com.
Great. I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. We're going to leave with your campaign ad, which is a bit of a musical feast.
Yes. All put together. Very thankful for him.
Thank you so much, Christina. And we'll see you all next Tuesday. And this has been Coup Save America. And we're going to run a campaign ad right now that I really want you to pay attention to. And please do whatever you can to support Christina Khalil. She's got the vision. She's got the heart. Let's get her to the Senate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's time we see more, no more detours. What we a sham. We understand the scam. It's time for all these scammers to scram, and we make an advance. All we need is a chance to break from the trance. We from the garden, I beg your pardon, squadron deep like Spartans. No time to hearken, you're watching big dogs over here, we barking. Parallel to the streets, we parking. Chance behind the doors, we knocking. Keep shocking, while they keep mocking. History with y'all embarking, got it, we bout it. We came to change the optic. No more taming topics. Let's all change the logic. No more games, things been the same. Ain't do nothing doubt it. It seems kinda toxic. Now it's time we shout it. It's time we see more. No more detours. But we need more. CK24. It's time we see more. No more detours. But we need more. CK24. Let's go.
Sure.